All right, good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. Welcome to the October 11th meeting of the Rotary Club of West Jacksonville. Zoom attendees, please mute yourself and submit any questions that you have via the chat function on Zoom. Our invocation today will be given by Jay Henderland, followed by Doug Milne, who's going to lead us in the pledge.
Thank you, President Dane. Fellow Rotarians, it's our heads. As we gather here today as members of Rotary, we pray that we are ever mindful of opportunities to render our service to fellow citizens and to our community, keeping in mind always the enduring values of life, exerting our efforts in those areas and on those things upon which future generations can build with confidence. Let us continue to strive to make a better world. Amen.
Fellow Rotarians, please join me in pledging allegiance to the flag of the greatest nation ever known as man.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, Jay, and thank you, Doug. I'd like to thank past President Kathy Cole for greeting, as well as Pierce Gibney. Now I would like to bring up District Governor John Tabor, Vince Coyle, and his wife Ruth Ellen for a special presentation.
Thank you, President Dane. I know he was watching me to make sure that I got that bite of food in my mouth just as he called me up here. So perfect timing. So one of the great privileges that comes along with serving in this capacity is being able to recognize new members, being able to recognize folks who have made a commitment to the Rotary Foundation. And so it is my distinct pleasure today to present Vince Coyle and Ruth Ellen with your major donor recognition in recognition of your commitment to the Rotary Foundation. What you are doing is helping relieve suffering and bringing hope, as our theme says this year, to folks around the world that you will probably never meet. But the impact that you have on their lives is unmistakable. And so we are very, very grateful for your contribution and the small token of recognition for you. And so with that, I'd like to present you both with your major donor pin and your major donor pin. There you go. And also, we have a crystal that is recognizes that your gift was made in memory of Robert Coyle Sr. Well, it's a beautiful crystal with the symbols of peace, and that is one of the things that obviously the Rotary Foundation does is promote peace around the world. The gifts that we receive. So thank you very much.
Many of you know Joe Springer and Phil Voss and I were in the same class 28 years ago in Rotary. Yeah. And it's hard to believe the time goes by. And all they did was every quarter was just give a couple more dollars and it added up over the 28 years to get to this point.
Yes, it does.
But the real story I wanted to say was Robert W. Coyle, my father, was what brought me into Rotary. And I'll be ever grateful to him because he is a symbol to me of anybody and everybody that service above self. And I tried to emulate what he did as a Rotarian, and hopefully all of us can do the same. Ruth, my wife, she actually paid for half of it.
All right, so the other thing, this is really cool, that I get to do today is recognize one of your esteemed members who's having a very significant birthday. And that would be Mr. Clayton Riley, 98 years young. And we have a See, Clayton is also proudly wearing his major donor pin as well, so thank you, sir, for that. Apparently, I learned you and I share a similar distinction, and that is that we are both the longest serving members of our club who were not charter members. And so I was the first that came into my club after chartering, and I understand that's the case. So I'm going to run real hard and try to catch up to you, but it may take a little effort. Congratulations and happy birthday, sir.
Happy birthday.
Thank you, District Governor John. So we have a lot of different announcements and housekeeping to get to before we get to our presentation today. The sign-up sheets for the Alhambra fundraiser and ticket sheets are available on the tables. It's actually very important that we go ahead and get a hard count, or at least a pretty good idea of everybody who's going to be interested in attending, so that we can go ahead and plan out the schedule, what shows we're going to be eligible to attend, and how much of the room we're going to cover. So if you're interested in coming, and we hope that you are, please go ahead and make sure to fill out the sheet on your table today. Ed Lombard has a pop-up on our football pool.
Congrats to Ken Baker for winning the pool 82. Congrats, Ken.
Again. Another announcement, Andrew Williams' cousin just opened a casual shoe store at 5 Points. And anybody who goes and buys a pair of shoes tomorrow between the times of 5 and 7, 10% of those proceeds will go to the Rotary Foundation. So if you need a pair of shoes, now's the time to do it. Try to make it into 5 Points, fight the traffic, find a parking spot, and pick out a nice pair of shoes. For those of you who might not be aware, Bill Andrews, there's a celebration of life next door for his wife, Susan. If you're unable to make it after our meeting, please be sure to send Bill your condolences. And lastly, there is a blood draw that's going to occur on November 8th. This is kind of a short notice thing. Apparently, there's a bit of an elevated need. And so they'd like to come out to TCC before a meeting, normal routine. And if you guys can make it, it's very important that you do. Now I'd like to call up Larry Bailey for this meeting's Family of Rotary report.
Well, fellow Rotarians, it's a real honor and privilege for me to stand up in front of you. So this month, the following people have birthdays: Jennifer Mack on the 3rd of October, Scott Hauser on the 6th of October, Bill Howley on the 7th of October, Dan Griffin on the 7th of October, Walden Parker on the 8th of October. And I would like to read a piece out of an email I got from Palmer Bell. And I appreciate, him providing me information. He wanted to make sure that Clayton Riley was recognized today. That's from Palmer. He appreciates you. Another thing I wanted to read was also to know that Bill Howley would love for folks to keep him and his wife Frances in their thoughts and prayers as Bill continues his battle with Parkinson's. So, when I heard that was just a kick in the gut. I said, man, Bill Howley and Scott Emery is in physical therapy 3 times a week, but in good spirits. So I wanted to take this a moment a little further. If we could just take a moment in silence in your own way and remember these people that are going through some battles right now. Okay? If we could just take a moment. Thank you. I am sure they appreciate it. It's been a tough year for me. My wife was going through a lot of things going on, so I appreciated the prayers and the people thinking about my family. So, I have a quick pop-up. Commander Trimble, who was here a couple weeks ago, my boss, he really appreciated the opportunity to talk in front of you. And he asked me to reach out to you. We have a group that's called the Recruiting District Advisory Council here in Jacksonville. And we meet on a Zoom call about every quarter. And the subject is Navy recruiting, you know, and then anything that, you know, talk about events, things that, you know, might help the recruiting efforts here in the area. So if you are interested, please, you know, reach out to me, and I'd be happy to, you know, just get your information and reach out to you. It's a Zoom call about every quarter, and then we talk about Navy recruiting. I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Larry. Carter Rosenblum has today's Sergeant at Arms report.
Thank you, President Dane. I'd like to share a short joke with you guys, if you don't mind.
That's pretty funny.
Hopefully that's not a sign. So there's an old man sitting on a park bench, and a young man comes up to the park bench. And he has this bright, spiky colored hair, kind of like somebody you probably typically see in Bibles. And he has black eye makeup. And so he sits down next to the old man, and the old man just kind of sits there and stares at him for a while. And so the young man looks at him and goes, "What's the matter? You never did anything crazy when you were young?" And the old man stares at him for a little bit, and then he says, "Well, yeah, actually I have. One night I drank too much and made love to a peacock, and I'm wondering if you're my son." We have some visiting Rotarians today that I'd like to introduce. I'd first like to start with our esteemed guests, John Tabor, our district governor, Jerry Kelly, a past district governor, and Dean Scott, our assistant governor. We're very honored to have you all today. Thank you. Pierce Gibson, our newest member, as a guest.
Hello, everybody. This is my good friend, Marcelo Estrada, former football player, great football player, and now a distinguished railroad with CSX.
Vincent, would you like to introduce your guest?
Introduce my guest again. It's my wife, Ruth Allen.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. And Jay Hendler has a guest.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to introduce my son, Ben Collinsworth Hinderley. He's 13, and even he doesn't find peacock recreation jokes. And that concludes my Sergeant at Arms presentation.
All right, thank you very much, Carter. Certainly welcome to all of our guests and visiting Rotarians. It's great to have you guys with us. It is humbling to have Marcelo here. He was an All-American, great football player. I played alongside him for a few years there, definitely running the option where you moved to the right side. And, it's just great to have you doing great work for CSX now. And now I'd like to go ahead and bring up Assistant District Governor Jerry Kelly to introduce our Speaker District Governor John Tabor.
Thank you.
You guys are taller than I am. Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
2023-2024 District Governor John Tabor has been a member of the Rotary Club of Orange Park Sunrise since July 2000 and served as club president during the 2017-2018 Rotary year. He is the founding chair of the club's major fundraising event, the Tennis for Cancer Doubles Championship, and has twice been named Rotarian of the Year. He has served the district as assistant governor for Area 3 and as district treasurer. As district governor nominee, he chaired the Brent Williams and Al Watson's Awards Committee and served as the district on-to Houston International Convention chair. John is a graduate of the Rotary Leadership Institute and now serves as a RLI facilitator. He is a Paul Harris Fellow, Paul Harris Society member, and a major donor. Complementing his Rotary involvement, John has compiled a long record of service to the Clay County community. He was recently elected to a fourth term on the Board of Supervisors for the Crossings at Fleming Island Community Development District, otherwise known as Eagle Harbor, and currently serves as board chair. John is a former chair of the Clay County Chamber of Commerce and served as interim CEO in 2011-2012. He further has served on the boards of many nonprofit organizations and government advisory boards in Clay County. Professionally, John is a wealth advisor with 5-Star Investment Services and is a certified financial planner. He spent his entire career in finance and financial services, including stints at State Street Bank, AmSouth, Regions Bank, and Lehman Brothers. John holds a BA in History and Economics from Eastern Nazarene College in Quincy, Mass., and an MBA from Boston College in Chestnut Hill, Mass. He has 2 daughters, both proud graduates at Florida State University. He lives with his wife, Rotarian Ann, in Fleming Island. Thank you. John?
Thank you, Jerry, for the kind introduction. That is the official bio that's on the district website. And I keep telling these folks, they can go ahead and edit that, shrink it up, but it's all good. So it tells you a little bit about me, so I don't have to tell you. So this is really an honor and a privilege to be here. I haven't visited with you in a little while, but it's always interesting to come back in this capacity and share with you a little bit about kind of what's on my mind, and also to visit with you and learn about what your club is doing. And this is, you know, obviously one of our great clubs in the district, and the work that you do, very evident in your community. Obviously, you're a giving club. We saw some evidence of that this morning, and so it is great to be here. I need to recognize a few folks. It is a little intimidating to be in the presence of some Rotary royalty here today. So I'm very pleased that past district governor Ken Baker is here. Ken also is serving the district as the chair of our district conference committee, and so I appreciate his participation. Obviously, everybody knows Marshall Butler. He's so busy doing Rotary stuff now that, I don't know, he keeps sending me his regrets because he doesn't show up at my events, and I'm thinking, well, maybe he's trying to avoid me. I don't know. Past district governor Sean Asmuth sent me her regrets earlier in the week. She also serves on the district's Funds and Procedures Committee, which is kind of like the board of directors, if you will, for the district. So I appreciate her involvement, continuing involvement. I would be remiss, and I don't think she's in the room, but I have to tell you, there is one person that's here today that keeps all of the wheels running smoothly, and that is Miss Patty Chapman. She is the district executive secretary. And if you want to know anything that's going on, most of the time when I get emails about how do I do this, how do I do that, I'm like, I don't know, call. My Lieutenant Governor, Dean Scott, is here. Dean's a member of the Rotary Club of South Jacksonville, and has been a great help and with me for a couple of years through this journey. Obviously, you've met Jerry Kelly. Jerry Kelly is assistant governor and has been part of my leadership team for the past 3 years. There's 12 assistant governors, and they all kind of are the primary contact liaison with 5 or 6 different clubs. And we could not do this without the assistance of those folks right there. So I really appreciate Jerry carrying my bags around this year, right? Who else? Gigi Carroll, who's our district Interact chair. Use the internet occasionally, right? Interact chair. Judy Matheny, are you here today, Judy? Judy is the district youth protection officer. We could not do our youth programs that we do without somebody in that capacity. Ed Lombard is here, and Ed has served the district capably in a variety of different capacities. Also, is my friend Charlie Fetzer here today? Do you see him? There he is. All right, I'll catch up with you later. Oh, great to see you, sir. And I also, at the risk of missing anybody, I don't think I missed. That tells you how much involvement your club has, right, and how important it is to the operation of the district. I also wanted to thank my oldest daughter, Lindsay, for being here with me today. You heard she's a graduate of Florida State. She's not a Rotarian, but we're working on that. And she lives right here in Ortega, and she's an attorney with the General Counsel's Office for the DuPont Charitable Trust. So she was right down the street and came and joined me today. So, and when I first pulled in, I saw all the cars and I saw the parking lot real full, and I was like, wow, like these guys have like done it up. Everybody came to see me. I know that's not the case. I either figured that you either didn't read the bulletin this week and you showed up anyway, or you actually maybe came out, and if you did, obviously, I'm grateful for that. So I think if I left anybody out, I truly ask for forgiveness. Okay, one public service announcement. Jerry was kind enough to put these cards out on your table. What this is, I'm told this is a QR code. And if you would like to subscribe to the district newsletter, here's a really easy way to do that. You take a picture with your camera and on your phone, and you put your name and your email address in, and you'll get the copy of the Minutarian on Sunday evenings. And the feedback we're getting about it is pretty good. People get a sense for kind of really quickly what's going on in the district, try a little education about the Rotary world, and you never know. If you turn over the other side of the card, there's a way for you to submit news and events about what your club's involved in. And we kind of watch the Facebook pages and all the rest of that. And we like to tell other folks in the district what our clubs are doing, and would love to see you make a contribution to that, because I know how many things you are involved in. And usually each week, if I find something real interesting, I like to try to highlight that in the weekly newsletter as well. So that's what that's all about. All right, so let's get to it. The district governor visit. So I've been a Rotarian for 23 years. I've had 22 district governors come and talk to my club in that period of time. And I'm not sure, honestly, that I can remember anything that any of them said. Now, this year's a little different. I get to hear myself say this about 75 times. So that's a whole other different thing that you all don't have to be subjected to. Jerry gets to hear it often enough. But, and then Dean, God bless him, is still here for another dose. So thank you for doing that. So look, I say that because, let's kind of be real about that. It is the district governor visit. I tried to find something out about what that was. The Rotary doesn't give us any requirement. They just say when you sign up, don't really sign up, the process, you agree to be district governor. One of the few things that you have to do, including keeping all the frogs in the wheelbarrow, so to speak. But you have to go visit all the clubs, but they don't really say, here's what you have to do. And then some of you who've been around Rotary for a while, know that district governor visit used to be this very formal, you meet with the board and report and all the rest of it. We have mercifully gotten away from that. So now it's really more about, kind of come out, say hello. It's as much for my benefit, probably it is for yours. But I will tell you, most of those visits are pretty forgettable. And, people get up here and give you kind of the usual platitudes. And then you go on with your day and you go, okay, that's nice. That's one more checkbox in the program, that 1 week that the program director chair didn't have to worry about filling the agenda. So understanding that, I am hopeful that at least today, I'll give you a couple of things to think about on your way across the parking lot to your car before you get on with the rest of your day. And if you, sorry, I'm having the same problem with that Carter had, this microphone. So I'm hopeful that at least you'll take a couple of things that we talk about today and just whatever, think about that, and it may give you something to think about. Let's hope. So we'll see. I learned a little bit about your club in preparing for this visit. One is chartered in 1967. So 56 years. So congratulations on that. That makes you one of the not older, I was going to be careful with saying more mature, more seasoned, right? More experienced clubs in the district. And you have currently 89 members and a great record of service. Here's what I also found out about you. You have 71 Paul Harris Fellows, 16 benefactors, 10 Bequest Society, 7 major donors we added to that list this morning, and 9 Paul Harris Society members. So that's fantastic. I mean, that shows a significant commitment on the part of this club to the work that the Rotary Foundation is doing. We're going to talk about the foundation briefly. It's not a foundation talk, I hope you will have somebody come out and talk about the details of that. And November is Foundation Month. It doesn't have to be in November, but it's pretty difficult to talk about Rotary and what we do without talking about the foundation. So we're gonna touch on that briefly. Here's what else I found out. Your club's all-time giving, $963,488. That's, give yourselves a hand. I mean, that is phenomenal. Now, there are a few clubs in the district that I have discovered so far that are plus $1 million in the life of their club. You all are so close, Dane, that, you know, with a little bit of effort, that could be a significant achievement on the part of your presidency to put your club over the top. And it can be done. I've seen it done. You also became a 100% Paul Harris Fellow Club in 2016, 2017. That means that at that point in time, every one of your members was a Paul Harris Fellow, and your name is on the wall at Rotary International Headquarters in Evanston, and you will always have that distinction. You are not 100% Paul Harris Fellow at this time, but you're very, very close. And I want to just tell you real quick about the Paul Harris Society. And I am grateful for those of you who have agreed to do that. And that is a very easy way to contribute on a regular basis. It's a commitment to give to the foundation $1,000 a year. It's $85 a month. And it's really easy to put that on a credit card. And most of us can find a way to waste $85 in a month. And with that, you receive an additional Paul Harris Fellow recognition every year. And before you know it, you get to where these folks were, and you move up to that major donor status. So that's wonderful. You know, in Rotary, we're all about the recognition and the bling and all that kind of stuff, and that's fine. But what it really means is, what is the foundation doing, not only in our communities, but also in our world? And so I want to touch on that a little bit briefly. Like I said, you can't talk about Rotary without talking about the foundation. It is the entity that really is the overarching. It's where our focus. It gives us focus to the actions that we take and the areas that we're invested in and where we make our effort. So you know, the foundation is an incredible organization, and I want to kind of put a couple of things in context for you today about the Rotary Foundation and why it is important, and why I think it gives you, really to me, a somewhat unique opportunity to make a difference in the world. The Rotary Foundation was founded in what year? Does anybody know? Any RLI graduates here? 1905 is when Paul Harris started Rotary, right? And we've got, it's interesting aside about that. You can tell that, you know, I think some of you know Paul Harris spent fair amount of his young career here in Jacksonville. And so the Jacksonville Club downtown is the #1 club in Florida. Paul Harris had a hand in starting that club. It's the 41st club in all of Rotary. But we have a number of other clubs. And it was really interesting because our presidents at PETS last spring, some of them had an opportunity to have lunch with Gordon McInerney, who's the current president. And we went around and I made sure that he knew how old some of those clubs were. And he was astonished. And we said, well, that was the work of Paul Harris in Northeast Florida. And that tradition is carried on through, you know, the giving and the generosity of Rotarians in this area. So the foundation was actually started in what year, Jerry? 1917. 1917. And the original endowment for the Rotary Foundation was how much? Anybody know? Dean, do you know? $26.50 was the original endowment for the Rotary Foundation. To date, the Rotary Foundation has given over $5 billion in grants, both large and small, in communities, in regions, and all around the world. $2 billion of that has been given towards the global initiative to eradicate polio. That's been matched with an excess of $10 billion today from folks like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the World Health Organization and governments around the world for the eradication of polio. So consider this. As recently as 1988, there were 350,000 cases of polio in the world, in over 125 countries. 1988, the original idea for polio eradication started in 1979 with the idea of one individual who saw an opportunity to begin an eradication effort in the Philippines. And that effort was so successful that Rotary International and the Rotary International president a few years later adopted that as the primary focus of the Rotary Foundation going forward until polio was eradicated. 350,000 cases in 1988. Now, since that time, Rotary has been involved in immunizing 3 billion children, 3 billion people who will not face the ravages of this disease, which is kind of really largely kind of receded from our memory in this country and many Western countries. But most of us are old enough to remember the sugar cubes, and we remember iron lungs, and we remember and we know probably people in our families and victims that are suffering with post-polio syndrome. We know what that disease is capable of. And this is what the Rotary Foundation has been able to achieve. The idea for polio eradication started with not a government agency, not a think tank, not a committee, and not a Rotary Club. The idea started with one person. And I want you to think about that. We're going to come back around to that. So also something to consider is that recently, for the 14th consecutive year, Charity Navigator, which is a worldwide organization that evaluates the effectiveness and stewardship of philanthropic and charitable organizations, gave the Rotary Foundation a 100% rating for the 14th year in a row. And that is a testament to, again, what we're doing, what you're doing, and the stewardship of the funds that you give to the Rotary Foundation. So that is the thing I think that really makes our organization unique and gives us an ability to be effective in what we do here in a way that most other organizations cannot. So talked a little bit about the Rotary Foundation. Jerry told you that I've been in Rotary for 23 years, and I want to tell you just a little bit about my story. Some of you are going, oh God, but no, it's really not that bad. It is informative to what I want to share with you today. You know, I joined Rotary like a lot of you did. I was new to the community. I wanted to meet people. I wanted to network. I wanted to learn who the players were in the community, and it was, as a business person, it was something that was important that you do. And so I got involved in my club. Jerry talked about the fundraiser that we started, and I served on all the boards and I did everything. But I have to tell you that my view of Rotary for many, many years was very myopic. I understood what was going on in my club, and I knew what my club was doing. It did not have a very good sense of where it fit kind of into the greater picture. And so, as it often happens, I was probably, I don't know, 10, 12 years into my tenure at the club. And a couple of the past presidents came to me and they tapped me on the shoulder and they said, John, we want to take you to breakfast next week. Well, you've been around Rotary for a while, you know what that means, right? And because what's the one word vocabulary that's not in our vocabulary, right? What's the one word? No. No, we don't say no. So I kind of knew what was coming. And we went to breakfast, and these guys, and I love them both, said, you know, John, you realize that you are the longest tenured member of the club who has never been president. And I was like, yeah, you caught it. You figured it out. And so I agreed to be president, and I was president during the 2017-2018 year. And I said, all right, I'm committed to do this. I'm going to understand what this is really all about. And the first thing I did was I went to Rotary Learning Institute, RLI, and I attended. And I went to district assembly, and I went to district conference. I went to the international convention in Atlanta that year in 2017. Who's been to an international convention? Okay, great. Did anybody go to Melbourne this spring? No? Is anybody going to Singapore next spring? Ed's going. Good, good. We've got about 25 people we know for sure, and I think we'll have some others that are going. So Rotary, when I went to my first international convention, and I'm sure some of you had this same experience, it is an eye-opener to see what is going on and to hear the stories and to visit with other Rotarians around the world to see what they are accomplishing and to see the kinds of projects and the impact that these folks are having on their communities through the ability to leverage their talents and time and treasure with Rotary. And then later that year, I had the opportunity to travel to Gabon in West Africa with a group from my club that was working on establishing a medical clinic just in a new community just east of the capital. And that was probably my Rotary aha moment, if there was one, because we had traveled halfway around the world. We were in a country where the native language was the native language, but the official language is French. And we visited a number of Rotary clubs. We were working with Rotarians in Gabon on this project. We went in and walked into those meetings of the Rotary clubs, and we felt like we were at home, brothers and sisters. We were welcomed. We spoke different language. We looked different. We were from another part of the world. But yet we understood the tradition. We understood what was going on in the meetings. People were as friendly. They welcomed us as brothers and sisters, which is what you would expect, part of this global fraternity that's Rotary. And I looked at that and I said, I have a whole different understanding of what is capable through this organization. And since then, I've had the privilege to attend 5 international conventions. At 3 of those conventions, I had actually run into people unplanned that I met during that visit to Gabon back in 2017, just across from the House of Friendship, if you remember that, and run into people and oh my gosh, here we are. But that's what it was all about. So, from there, it really became, it was a turning point for me, I think personally and professionally, as Jerry said, been involved in a lot of different not-for-profits and been in a lot of other kinds of activities. And I really, over time, have set a lot of that aside, and I've focused more of my attention on Rotary. And I'll tell you for some important reasons. And one is when we bring you into membership, when you do your fireside chat or you have your evaluation or you have your interview or whatever it is, whatever you do in your club, there's a couple of important things that we do not do. We don't ask you where you go to church. We don't ask you if you go to church. We don't ask you what political party you belong to. We don't ask you who you vote for. We don't ask you if you vote. We only care about one thing. Do you share the values that we have as listed in the 4-way test? Are you committed to the notion of service above self? And that's the only thing that we ask. So for me personally, Rotary has become a refuge in a world that is increasingly focused on the things that divide us rather than emphasizing the things that unite us. And we all know that there's much more that unites us as human beings. And we're here because we all have a concern about doing good in the world and a concern about making our communities better places. And when we walk through that door, there's nothing wrong with having differences, but our differences don't define us. Our differences don't matter because we're united in that idea about making a difference in our communities. And so I think it's worthwhile and certainly it's meaningful to me to remember what the Rotary vision statement is. That Rotary vision statement says, together we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change in the world, in our communities, and in ourselves. And I think we have the opportunity in this organization like no other to be able to do those things. Plenty of other great organizations and great efforts that are going on out there. You can contribute to $11 a month on TV. There's lots of those, and there's lots of great things in our city that people are doing. We partner with many of those organizations. But I would suggest that this one is a unique one because of our effort and being united around that one prospect of making our world a better place. I want to share with you a story that Gordon McAnally told. He told it at International Assembly in Orlando, and he told it again in Melbourne. You know, every year, the Rotary International president comes up with a theme. And I thought last year's theme was pretty good. Jennifer Jones obviously spent a lot of time thinking about it. There was a lot of symbolism in it. I got the whole, John Lennon and the Beatles and all that kind of stuff. And I'm a big fan, and I was all about it. And it was great. You go back and you look at all of the Rotary International themes for the last however many years, and they're all pretty much the same kind of thing. We're all kind of focused on what, do-goodery, right? So that's kind of what that was about. What was interesting when Gordon spoke about where his inspiration came for this year's theme, This year's theme is Create Hope in the World. Gordon's been in Rotary for about 40 years. And they say, hey, doesn't possibly look that old. He started when he was in his late 20s. And he's done a lot in this organization. And he has some great personal stories to tell about what he's done and what Rotary means to him. The theme came from an experience that he had in 2007, excuse me. He was in Thailand working with a work group that was helping to rebuild communities, coastal communities, that had been devastated by the tsunamis that went through Thailand in 2004. Many of you nodding your heads, you remember that. And he met, obviously, the people that were over there. And he was approached by a woman who had a beautiful seashell that she wanted to present to him as a gift. And of course, he, initially was, well, that's, I couldn't accept that. He shows a picture of it. I've been told, Jerry told me I got to get a picture of it so I can put it up on the screen. But anyway, it is beautiful. And he, of course, said, no, I couldn't accept that. And she said, you don't understand. The tsunami destroyed her home. It destroyed her village. It destroyed her livelihood. She didn't have a way to make a living. It took her husband. She lost her husband. She lost her son. She lost her daughter. She lost everything. Everything. And the only possession that she had remaining from that experience was that seashell. And of course, Gordon's reaction was, I could not possibly accept that. And again, she said, you don't understand. Rotary has come into our community. Rotary restored our optimism. Rotary gave us hope when we had none. And that was the inspiration for his message. And I believe it is what we are all about, because we know there are people that are 5 miles from here or 5,000 miles from here that have lost hope. They've given up. And many times we are the only ones that are in a position to help them pick up and carry on. The most obvious example of that, right, is the polio effort. But it doesn't take long to figure out the myriad other kinds of efforts. Some are the fairly simple in some cases, some more elaborate projects that we take on in our own communities. But we have the opportunity to leverage those into regional opportunities and global opportunities. So having said all of that, what I really hope that you will take away from my visit here today is just a couple of things. Think about them on your way to the parking lot. And then if you don't think about them again, I won't be offended, because I get it, okay? But I want you to challenge yourself a little bit and consider, why are you a Rotarian? And I think most of us can look back and go, we had a different reason for joining Rotary than maybe where we have developed today. I would suggest to you that when you learn more about this organization, it doesn't matter what your particular interest or your passion is, there is a connection somewhere in Rotary that could help you basically live out, seek that passion, seek to make a difference with whatever that is. Remember what I said? The idea for eradicating polio, for God's sake, started with one person. Now, I'm not sure that we all have the audacity to come up with something that significant, but think about the difference that has made in literally billions of lives since that started. I'm telling you that the power to accomplish those kinds of things is in this organization. And sometimes you just have to seek it out and ask. I was approached a couple of weeks ago at the Rotary Club of Keystone Heights. And we were talking about this, and I had a gentleman, he was major donor, and he's one of the more mature members of the club. And he said, I've got a son-in-law who's an Anglican priest in the western part of Uganda. And he was telling me about the village that's there and how they don't have clean drinking water. And I was like, have I got a deal for you? My first question was, is there a Rotary Club in that area? And he said, yes. And I said, well, water projects in particular are right up our alley. We do thousands of them around the world, and we're very good at doing that. And so later that afternoon, I sent him and the foundation chair and the president of that club information about how they could connect with the resources that we have in Rotary and local contacts, and even the contact in Uganda in that district that can help them build that well. I'm going to be fascinated to see what happens with that. But that's just the power of sometimes just having the idea and asking the question about how we go about doing that. You may not have the resources in the Rotary Club of West Jacksonville, but I guarantee you somewhere in the world, somebody does. So I want you to think about, am I leveraging the time, the talent, the investment of treasure that I've made in this organization? And am I making a difference in my community through that? The second question is, why are you a member of this club? Why does this club exist? What is your brand? What are you trying to do? Does somebody know what the Rotary Club of West Jacksonville is? It is really interesting. I had the experience, others have as well. When you go to developing countries, the Rotary wheel it's everywhere. You see it on a lot of things. You see it on the sides of schools, and you see it on buildings, and you see it on walls, and you see it on playgrounds, et cetera, et cetera. You see it on public toilets. And the children, they don't know what Rotary International is. They don't know what this is all about. All they know is that the people who come to their village, their community, that wear the Rotary wheel are there to help them. They're there to bring them hope and to improve their lives. That's the brand. And that's what Rotary means in some of these places in the world. It's a very simple message. We kind of overcomplicate it, I think, sometimes in the way we go about doing things. But it doesn't hurt to do some self-examination critically. I know when Dane, we talked about this when we went through president-elect training, and I know your president-elect coming in is going to go through the same thing. And doing some critical look at your club and what you're doing, and looking at the size of your club, the composition of your club, does it reflect the community that you're trying to impact? Do those factors enhance or do they detract from your ability to have an impact in your community? And it's worth taking a look at those things. You have a great club. You're working from a tremendous basis and a great legacy of giving. But I will tell you, for those who have given much, much is expected. And Dane and I had that conversation already today and said, look, you guys, there's nothing stopping you from having impact in this community like you've never seen before. So thank you for listening, and thank you for giving me the time. It's really a privilege to spend. I've enjoyed getting to know Dane, and I'm looking forward to what your club accomplishes this year. Don't be afraid to ask. If you have something that you're interested in, that's really what we're here for, is to help you all be more effective and have a greater impact in your communities. Thank you so much for your time and attention. It really has been a privilege to be with you today. Thank you very much.
So John, on behalf of the entire club, we'd like to offer you this, our small token of appreciation for all the work that you do. And we couldn't appreciate that more. Thank you. Thank you. All right, guys. Thank you again. It's always inspirational to hear about what this organization does around the world as well as in the communities. And there's really no bigger reminder of that than when our district governors come and address the club. A couple of reminders before we get out. Next week, our speaker will be Jeff Sheffield. He's the executive director of North Florida Transportation and Planning Organization. Congratulations again to our newest major donor recipient. Of course, that's Vince and Ruth Ellen Coyle. Thank you very much. One more round of applause for him. And thank you for our guests and visiting Rotarians. It's been a pleasure to have you guys with us, and we hope that you will come back and see us again. Ed Lombard will lead us in the four-way test today.
The four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First is the truth. Second is the third will and fourth.
Happy Wednesday to everybody. I hope everyone has a great remainder to their week, and let's go make the world a better place.